into operations on an unprecedented, epic scale. They'd followed Bitcoin transactions to identify culprits from Baltimore to Moscow to Bangkok. They'd exposed crooked cops stealing millions. They'd tracked down $500 million in stolen funds, the fruits of a multi-year international heist and money laundering operation. And they'd pulled off the biggest online narcotics market takedown in history, capturing the market's creator and shutting down his bustling digital bazaar, one that had generated more than $650 million in contraband sales. But even after all of those journeys into the depths of the cyber-criminal underworld, tracing cryptocurrency had never before led them to a case quite like this one. That morning's search in the suburb near Atlanta, as Jancheski would later put it, was a proof of concept. From where Jancheski was positioned at the front of the house, he could hear the agent speaking to the father, who responded in a broken, resigned voice. In another room, he could simultaneously hear the Homeland Security agents questioning the man's wife. She was answering that, yes, she'd found certain images on her husband's computer, but he'd told her he'd downloaded them by accident when he was pirating music. And in the third room, he could hear the two elementary school-age children, kids about as old as Jancheski's own, watching TV. They asked for a snack, seemingly oblivious to the tragedy unfolding for their family. Jancheski remembers the reality of the moment hitting him. This was a high school administrator, a husband, and a father of two. Whether he was guilty or innocent, the accusations this team of law enforcement agents were leveling against him, their mere presence in his home, would almost certainly ruin his life. He thought again of the extra-dimensional evidence that had brought them there, a tool like a digital divining rod, one that revealed a hidden layer of illicit connections underlying the visible world. He hoped, not for the last time, that it hadn't led him astray. Part 1. Men with No Names. Chapter 1. Eladio Guzman Fuentes. On September 27, 2013, 4 years before Chris Jancheski stepped into that house in the Atlanta suburbs, someone moved 525 bitcoins. Those coins, worth around $70,000 when they were sent, but more than $15 million as of this writing, traveled from one Bitcoin address identified by a meaningless string of 34 characters to another address with an equally long and meaningless identifier. More specifically, 15T7SAGS D2JQW UPBSIIFC VUVYR QWX3LQ1E sent them to 1AJGT I3I2T PUG3OJWOHND DN1DYHJTWKSAA. Bitcoin's exchange rate is famously volatile, but at the time this book was being finalized in the spring of 2022, its price in dollars was fluctuating around $30,000, so certain descriptions of value in the book roughly reflect that number. The transaction, like all Bitcoin transactions, happened silently, but not at all secretly. The sender's computer had sent out a message to nearby computers in Bitcoin's global network announcing the payment. Within minutes, the announcement had been passed to thousands of other machines around the world, all of which confirmed that they'd witnessed it, adding it into their copy of the Bitcoin blockchain, the unforgeable, unchangeable, and altogether public ledger of who owns which Bitcoins in the global cryptocurrency economy. In fact, these witnesses noting the transaction in their collective accounting of all Bitcoins, agreed to by all of the cryptocurrency's users, represented the only meaningful sense in which the abstract coins could be said to have moved at all, or to have even existed in the first place. But they did exist, and they did move. You can type one of those long-winded addresses into a search engine today and see the transaction for yourself on a site like blockchain.com or btc.com. This public, permanent record of someone's 5-figure payment cannot be rescinded or erased. Yet to anyone who looked at the same transaction...